What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode here at Trembles. So today, you see the change in scenery. Today we're doing a breakdown on the Bronco and giving you a 30K review, not only to show you the upgrades, not only to show you how everything is done, but really to give you a true breakdown of what 30,000 miles looks down, with countless wheeling time, countless travel time, camping trips, and just overall how the modifications have done since day one, what I've changed, some of the upgrades we did currently, and then what the next phase of the Bronco will look like. But we want to get down there. We'll show you the skids, we'll show you the control arms, we'll show you brackets, we'll show you frame. There's been some fixes that I've done throughout these last 3 years of ownership, and if you guys didn't know, I actually had the Bronco probably sooner than anybody. I think myself, there was a couple other guys, I think Oscar and the four-door, we were some of the early guys to have them. I think 3 years ago at SEMA, we were the only two Broncos there. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go down, dive into it, show you how the two-door has performed, show you the interior, how everything's held up, show you some of the ugly, some of the good, and then just give you an honest review. I know there's a lot of channels out there that break them down, but usually they own just the Bronco and they're very Bronco specific, or they own just the Jeep and they're very Jeep specific, and I think a lot of times they're biased and not honest. So today we're gonna be honest. Shout out to All Terrain, Mr. Gus that has used the shop. We'll go say what's up to him, go say what's up to some of the guys. It is warm in there, it's toasty, so if you see us sweating, don't judge us. 30K review, let's get it. All right, team, before we get the video started, just want to give an All Terrain some love. This is what his shop looks like, so if you're ever looking for it, you can see his green JT there. You walk into the shop, it's right here in the corner. It is in Rialto. I'll put all his info in the description below, but there's the shop. Dude, look at this big pedal, dude. Spending more money or what, dog? Dude, let's rob this fool, dude. He's not even here. Look, dang, all the goods are in there. But I'll give you guys a shop tour real quick. Dude, and he doesn't just work on Jeeps. Look at him. Gus is out here working on a Tacoma, dude. This is like finding a unicorn, dude. We got the Bronco. Obviously, you're gonna break that down. Got a JT, got a JL, some of the customer rigs outside, but his shop is, again, located in Rialto. He does all the work here. Damn, sick as JT. Who's this up here in the Westin Superwinch logo, dude? That's the JT version 1 when I first got her. He's got the drinks on deck, but he's working on a Tacoma right now. What are you doing to the Taco way?
We're just fixing the steering on it.
Some
Ball
basic
joints are bad, tie rods are bad.
all the basic maintenance stuff. So guys, tell everybody about the shop, dude.
So name's Gus, the owner of All Terrain Garage. Welcome to our little garage here in Rialto. We service mostly Jeeps, but we also do Tacomas, Broncos, 4Runners, a little bit of everything.
How long have you been in business?
We're going on 4 years.
Dang, 4 years.
Yeah, we expanded here last year.
Yeah, because you used to have the shop right across, right?
Yeah, so we started at an 800 square foot building.
Okay.
This one's now 2,400.
Sick.
So we got a little bigger.
And then you also do alignments and anything like that?
Yeah, in-house alignments.
Sick. Well, thank you again for letting us use the shop, dog. And we're going to get in here, dive into the 30K review on the Bronco. But as you can see, it's a lot better than being outside. It's still kind of toasty in here, but we're going to do our best. Let's get it. All right, team, before we get started, we are going to start with the front, but just wanted to say this is a shop. They are working on stuff still, so if you do hear some noises, it's just because of that. Hopefully the mics do a good job, but we're going to dive right in. First things first, front bumper. So this is a Pro Mod from Westin. This is also modified to make sure that it fits a winch. Oscar from Acfab actually did the mounting systems to make this winch fit in here, and I've had it in here. It's worked well. It's the lowest profile, and it fits with the lights perfect. This Bronco did start with the modular that came factory from Ford, which is really dope. Honestly, I still think that even though this setup looks really nice, I think the modular is one of the best bumpers out there. If you don't want to spend the money, try to find one of those. They're getting harder and harder to find, and they're more expensive, but that's what the front end looks like. And honestly, it's done really well. You can see some of the damage from the rocks and whatnot. This little flap is bent, but you can replace that. But the rest of the bumper has held up. It's taken a few hits from, you know, just being out and wheeling it. The wings do come off if you need to take them off. You can also put a light in here, but I just left it open so that way the resis get more air, because I don't need any more lighting, obviously. The lighting package is on deck already, so you can see that side. This side, they also offer it with sensors. This is the sensor one. I don't have all the sensors, so I took them off. And then this is the plug, just to wire it if you want to, but I do want to run a wireless winch. So it just really nice. It sits nice and tight to the body. If you're not going with the modular, this is a good secondary choice. It's nice and strong and just does really well. So all the skids and stuff, we're actually gonna lift the truck and show you what those look like. A lot of it is new, so we'll show you those as we go. But that's the front end, man. That's really the only modification other than the light package, but we'll do that later. And we're gonna go through the side armor and rear bumper next. Alrighty, so on the side, we also do have the Westin Rocksliders. So these are, they're not frame mounted, but they do have a lot of mounting locations for the 2-door. They also have them on the 4-door, but that's what they look like. Honestly, this is my second set. The first one did really well. The only reason I removed it was because it's really beat up, and I wanted it to look fresh when we were going back out to UBB. But they've held up well. It's kept everything away. It's really nice and tight, so there is no damage that happens to the body. Gives you a little bit of pivoting, and then it has a nice grippy step, which is really nice. And then we're gonna move out to the rear. So the rear is also one of their pieces. See, this is the best bumper you can buy for the rear. It's clean and nice and tucked. You can wire these lights to be chase lights if you wanted to, and it's just done well. I've had this bumper on here basically since I got the truck. Obviously, you can see some of the damage and whatnot underneath, but it's held up really well. You can still use your factory winch locations if you do have a Badlands. I think some of the other Broncos are a little bit different, but everything else here has held up well. There's no dents anywhere. It's taking hits left and right. As you can see, it's held up. This little cap also broke off, but the rest of the bumper has done really well. A couple more gashes there. This bumper has been on there probably about 20,000 miles, maybe even more. I think the first series that I had was like their, test series to see how it fit, the R&D and whatnot. And then after that, we put the full form in here, and it's been there basically since. But I could literally remove this, give it some more paint, and it'll look just as new. This also comes in the sensors, also fits on the 2-door, 4-door, and we just installed one on a Bronco Raptor. So really nice piece, and it holds up well. Alrighty, I'm gonna break down one of the newest upgrades that I did to the truck. I did do a full install video on this setup and also on KC's Raptor, which is the TrailRax half rack. So we did a half rack system on his, half rack system on mine. And now I've finally got it to basically its final form. The only thing it's missing, it's the roto pack, but I'm not gonna be obviously rocking the roto packs unless I'm using them. I did do this mostly because I'm gonna be taking this to the Rubicon, and I wanna make sure I don't run out of fuel because the tank on the 2-door and the Bronco Raptor are both very small. And honestly, I think I might be close, but this will keep me from having to worry about that. So we'll carry a couple gallons of fuel, a couple gallons of water to wash our hands and whatnot, and we'll do it. But this is a half rack. This also has the American Adventure Lab tent mounts, which are perfect. We already used those out in our last episode. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. I did just finish wiring my lights. So this light setup is from Diode Dynamics. They're using the rock lights basically as like awning lights, I guess you could say, kind of spotlight the area, especially when we need to set up camp in the middle of the night. Those do help, but basically all custom wiring, pretty much everything ran through the roof. I did drill a hole. I'll show you how I did that also, but the actual half rack and PackRax fits awesome. We already used it up top. We haven't used the PackRax just yet, but I know KC did, and he had the water with the spigot that we were using constantly to wash dishes, our hands, and keep everything going when we were at camp. So again, if you're looking for a rack system and you don't want the huge overlay up top, a half rack system from TrailRax is honestly super awesome. Really easy to mount. It's done well. I don't have a ton of miles, so I can't give you like a full-blown review. We've taken it on one trip and it was perfect. It did its thing. But now that it's in its final form, it'll be nice to use it when we go out to the Rubicon and see how it does carrying all the stuff, using the lights, and then obviously loading it up with some more weight on the sides here. Alrighty, so the way I waterproofed it, I used one of these scan struts. So these are what they use usually on like RVs, trailers, those kind of things. Do drill a hole through it, and then it waterproofs the rest of it. I already washed the truck a couple times to make sure it didn't leak, that it was sealed correctly, but that's the way I did it. And then I used some clips, kind of just wired everything. I probably will illumine this and clean it up a little bit more. This is just kind of a temporary fix as I see. I'm trying to get a table down here, do some more things to be able to lighten this whole thing up and just carry the stuff that I need without having so much weight. Carrying a lot of weight does make your rig act a little bit funny. So I'm trying to keep her as light as possible. And then, being that it is a 2-door, it does require a little bit of finesse when it comes to what you're carrying in space and whatnot. But the 2-door is here. Always carry a blizzy on deck, but I'm gonna show you the way I wired it. So the wires came down through there, went and wrapped around, basically through here, and everything's hidden, loomed, tucked nice and neat. And then there's a switch right there. And I ran it where it's hot, so the lights will stay on. It does have a high-low function, and a center, just turn it off. And then I do have a couple more wires and plugs down here. So that's my compressor, and then have another light in here. So I use that light basically so when I don't have enough light in the back, you know, when we're in the middle of nowhere, sometimes I need to find a tool or something. That light will give me enough because the stock lights from the Bronco just don't do it. The next thing I obviously want to talk about is it being a two-door. You know, the 30,000 miles that I have put into it. The one thing that obviously does present a little bit of a challenge is that is a lot smaller in here when it comes to carrying stuff. But normally it's just myself, Ashley, and the dog. So this works out fine. But I would say if you have kids, if you're going to be bringing more than one dog, I would opt for a four-door or get something that, you know, manages that space a little bit better. Now, if you are just going to be riding, you know, a beach cruiser, something that you're not going to be taking out to camp, you're basically just wheeling for the day, you're just going to carry a cooler, maybe some tools, and some adults and kids and whatnot, the two-door still works fine. The back seat has plenty of space. It's comfortable, has cup holders in the rear. The whole setup is really, really nice. I think Ford and the Bronco team did a really good job of designing it so there is enough space and it's comfortable. I noticed that on the JL, even in the JTs and some of the 4-doors and 2-doors, the space is limited, but the Bronco actually gives you a lot of space, which does take away from the back. It does let you at least be comfortable if you're just gonna be, you know, using it to travel, ride along, and you're not carrying a ton of stuff. I always carry a Blizzard box. The Blizzy right now, it's in party mode, obviously. Got the beers in there because it is a Saturday. I'll show you my compressor setup and everything else as we go. So now moving on to the front end. It's pretty basic. I haven't really done much here. One thing that I can show you for sure is the seats. So this little tear right here happened by having my keys in my pocket, which sucks because I think it tore a little bit too easy. And then other than that, the wear and tear is definitely there. This is where I got the little gash, and then this is just extra. So from just diving in and out, it has put some wear on it. So 30,000 miles, the seats are not holding up that well, I guess. That one obviously doesn't get used as much because it's not as many people. You know, Ashley doesn't always come with me, but because I am jumping into this one often, you can see the seat has got a little bit of wear. But nothing a seat cover can't change, and I think honestly I'll probably be going PRP anyways, putting like some sort of half cage or something in here just to make it a little bit safer. The cab itself is nice. I don't have the 360 camera, the big ass screen. So my two-door is basically a Badlands non-Sasquatch because I already knew I was ripping apart the suspension. The only thing I really lost by not going Sasquatch is not having the gearing. So I think 456s versus 478s or something like that. But everything else is the same. This is a base again, so it's a base Badlands. You get the smaller screen. You don't have the 360 cams. But I already knew what I was going to do with it, so that worked out perfect. And I think that's also why I got it really early. I didn't have to worry about all the other stuff coming in. I also do have the ghost box. This controls all the lighting for my truck, so front lights, everything. I haven't completely filled this all. I just put the stickers, so some of the fun haver stuff. It does have a really nice mount. It is the stock location. I just used one of the mounts. You know, I just bought it on Amazon, whatever. And then I did get this rail also on Amazon. It does have my controller. I put the radio on this little mount, and then you can kind of mess with it. It is modular. You can move everything around. But I put my cell phone here, and then that's it. It keeps everything nice and clean, out of the way. And everything else is factory. So factory interior, factory, pretty much everything else. So it keeps everything nice and clean. Alrighty, now that we wrapped up the interior, did want to talk about wind noise a little bit. So owning a Bronco, owning a Jeep, one thing that you do notice obviously is right away is wind noise. So you do get a lot more cabin noise than you would say like in pretty much any other vehicle. I do have the hardtop with the extra noise stuff that they give you from factory. Comparing this to the J Gladiator has been a little bit quieter, but they both are about the same. You're not gonna get a super quiet cab. People that complain about that stuff, I mean, come on, get it together. You bought a Jeep or a Bronco or anything that you can remove a top, it's never gonna seal correctly 100%, especially if you use it, especially if you're mounting through the desert. All this stuff is moving around. You think these little like clips right here, those don't hold it completely. Everything still moves, especially when you start throwing weight on top of it and things like that nature. It's never going to seal correctly, but it is really cool when you are able to remove it, especially if you have kids and stuff. I think that's some of the coolest things you could do. I've taken my nephews and whatnot, and it just works out. One thing that does differentiate the Bronco from the Jeep is the Broncos don't have a frame around the window. So not having a frame has caused an issue. When it gets really, really windy, you can feel the air kind of going through here, and it kicks out the window if it's not sealed correctly. So you can't even have the window cracked when it's really, really windy. You have to make sure you seal it and kind of just leave it alone till you get through like the heavy winds. Even on some of the freeway speeds, the window doesn't seal correctly, but it is cool. I mean, again, when you take out the doors, there is a big plus to this compared to the Jeep. Also, when you remove this door compared to a Jeep, the mirror actually stays. So the mirror is already there, or like if you do remove your doors from the Jeep, you have to get some aftermarket mirrors because the mirror does come off with the door. That is one of the pros and cons of having a Bronco. I think the 4-door is exactly the same. It's cool if you do like removing your panels and doing things of that nature. The next thing I want to talk about is my lighting package. If you guys have been following the channel, I do have the lighting package from Project X on both of my rigs, and it has been awesome. So I've carried the 5 light package up here. And then I have some HPs in the front, which is their high power front lights. So I did wrap mine in yellow just to kind of give it its amber look when I do turn them on. But the light package, as much as some people think it's overkill, I do lead groups a lot. And I've done rescues in the middle of the night. And honestly, having all this light has helped a ton. Being able to see basically everything once I turn them on. I use these a little less than I use these. These are a lot just because I think it's the location. These do give me a little bit of glare off the hood, but they did just release their 6-light one, their 6-light with a different mount. So we're going to be trying that one out also to see if it changes anything. But I do like the low profile setting, so you don't have like the little bunny ears like some of the KC setups and some of the other mounts. The HPs is kind of where to go. If you can get some HPs, put them in your front bumper. Honestly, we've set 2 of them up in certain rigs and it's more than enough. But the Bronco does look awesome. It gives it a, you know, like a Baja look to it with the lights. It's a very classic look, and I really do like them. So FF's up top, HP's at the bottom, and they also make the Ghost box, and the same company carries the Blizzard box too. So it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. Lauren Healy was pretty much one of the first ones to kind of pioneer the brand, and it's done well for me. I've had them on the Jeep also. I put a couple of them on the Wagoneer, and yeah, the lighting package is on point. So the only thing that's missing on this car when it comes to lighting is rock lights. So I still haven't figured out how I'm gonna do that, because at the Rubicon last year we did need them. So I'm gonna see if I can get those done here prior to heading out. So when it comes to the exterior, that's pretty much everything we've done. We'll talk about skids, tires, rims, any of the power performance package that we've done. And then we'll talk more about the Bronco, 30K miles, how it's performed, and we'll cut in some clips and show you what it's done. Let's get it. I almost forgot. I wanted to show you my compressor. I do have the Tireflate compressor. There's also a video of all this install. This is on a TV8 mount. Compressor is all tied up in there. It's nice and clean. It's all been wired, so that way you don't even have to open this anymore. All my hoses are right there. The switches are right there, so that'll turn on, turn off. This is my light, the extra light that I have right there. And it's all plumbed, basically to come out through the rear bumper. So all I have to do is plug in the hoses here. It is a quad hose setup. It is made by Tireflate again. And that's it. So that way it leaves all this space open. I also do carry an extra tie rod, some extra straps and everything that goes in there. But everything back here has done well. Even like the factory liner that it came in the Badlands has all taken the nick. I've carried coolers, tools, parts, and it's done really, really well. Obviously it's dirty, but because it's been used, all the interior does take scratches. It's the only thing that sucks about these Broncos, whatever plastic that they use. But I think it's any vehicle. You put the, you know, stuff in here, it moves and shifts around. It does get all scratched up. We're gonna put the truck in the air now. We'll show you tire package, suspension, everything else we've done. Now that the truck's on the lift, I can break down tires, rims, suspension, skid plates, how the body is held up. Honestly, the Bronco's been a really good rig to me. You can see some of the damage that I've taken. So that was Chocolate Thunder, Cougar Buttes, took my number there a little bit. I'm gonna get that fixed before the next level of the whole truck. There's another scrape about there. But what's really cool about the Broncos also, I know I talked to a lot of the friends and they didn't know, but all these pieces are modular, so you can actually remove that panel. It's like 6 or 7 bolts. That whole thing comes off. You put a new one on it, that's it. It's just skin. And they also do sell the door skin for this, so I'll be replacing that, doing a door skin, and then wrapping that whole area. But let's talk about rims and tires. As you guys know, I've been repping Falken for a while now. I do believe that the Falken is one of the better tires that's out there. It is made in Japan. I've rocked the MT, I've rocked the RT. I had the AT for a little bit, but honestly the RT is kind of where it's at. I do have it on the Bronco, I do have it on the Gladiator, and it just outperforms pretty much anything that I see out there. It does really well. It's done well on the road, done well in snow, dirt, sand. Everything that I've thrown at it, it's handled it well. It is 3-ply sidewall protection. It's the Duraspex lineup that Falken has. This is a 35. I've done 37s, and I think on the 2-door, because of the wheelbase, a 35 is perfect. You have to drive a little bit more, but it's I think it's a better size. The truck is happier with the 2.7, and overall it's just better. The Reika wheels, I've had these Reikas probably about a year, maybe a year and a half. It's an okay wheel. The only thing that I didn't like is that they did have like the fake bead lock things and these the bolts are not recessed. So if you are wheeling heavy, they do get caught and they start ripping off. So I'll show you some of the other wheels where it did rip off. But the integrity of the wheel actually held up, high speed or in the rock crawling situation. It hasn't given me any issues, hasn't had any give, it hasn't leaked anywhere. Mounting and bouncing, everything has been okay. And these are a -15. They do have a little bit of a poke, which kind of lines it up perfect with the Sasquatch fenders. So I really enjoy the way that these Ramblers look. And I think they just released not too long ago. They also have a beadlock option in this specific pattern. It's one of their better designs, which I like a lot. Falken obviously is the way to go, in my opinion. If you're looking for the MT, it's cool. The RT does have a nice pattern, 6 sidewall, and it just works. Let's talk suspension. So suspension wise, I've actually only had 2 setups, which has been the Radflow. We'll get into the Radflow soon. The first thing that I had was the Sasquatch package. We switched out to Sasquatch, rode those for only about 2 weeks, and then Westin actually released the 6112s. So we tried those, had them off for SEMA, and they were okay. They were just a little bit too stiff for my liking, especially when we got into the rocks. You can notice that they would fade out pretty quickly in the desert as well. And just, you know, we ended up switching them out. So we went and contacted Radflow. They set up with their first coilover kit when they first launched it. Total Chaos arms have been awesome. I haven't had any issues. We are going to pull them off to double check all the bushings on the inside and also check out the outside and see how it's held up here shortly. And then we're also going to be removing the coilovers to make sure everything is good there. When I did put on the first set of Radflows, this is at the beginning of when they were releasing for the Bronco. I did end up blowing a couple seals, but it is during their R&D process, so we expected a couple of the issues that might happen because of the way that they were routed and whatnot, but they fixed all that. So once they were fixed, we got it all completed, and I've had this set up now for about 15,000 miles, and it's been awesome, man. We've hucked this truck, sent it really, really hard, and the coilovers continue to keep going, man. These are a 2.5 setup. It has internal bump stops, and it has adjustable reservoirs right here. So I actually mounted mine right in between the frame and where the front end of the truck is. A lot of people put them right underneath here with their brackets from King and whatnot. But if you get really, really smart, they fit right there, and they don't rub anywhere. You have enough space. Even with jumps and everything, it doesn't move. But the setup has been awesome. When it comes to the tie rods, I know that was a big issue when the first Broncos came out, that everybody was busting them and whatnot. I'm actually still on stock tie rods. The only thing I did was the JKS sleeves just to tie in this piece right here, but everything else has been completely factory. I haven't changed anything. It does look like my boot might be leaking there, so this is also a testament to checking everything while I'm recording. So my axle does seem to be leaking there, so I'll check my axles, make sure they're okay. But before hitting the Rubicon, but you can see it looks like the seal right there is kind of giving out. But stock axles, stock tie rods, stock brakes, everything else has held up the way it should. The one other thing that I did break on here, if you guys have followed the channel, you remember when I broke it, but it was this piece right here, which is this tube. So the tube from here down to the diff, it is all cast aluminum, so I got caught somewhere, it bound up and snapped. That's really the only issue I've had with this Bronco after, you know, countless miles of wheeling, rocks, boulders, jumps, you name it. And honestly, I think it's only because there's a bushing at the very, very top that comes loose. It has one full bolt that goes all the way up, and if it doesn't hold it, it gives it a lot of play, so it messes up. But you can see my lower control arms are all ratcheted up. This is the only thing that I didn't like. I wish I would have covered all this sooner. So this piece right here where your control arm, I've seen this on a lot of Broncos. If you don't have a brace here, this starts bending, and this is a pain in the ass to bend back. So you can see it's ate up through some of my arm there. It's eaten through the bottom of my arm there, eaten through the bottom of my arm there. But it's held up, nothing's broken. This brace is still actually pretty good, so I'll make sure that I gusset this piece right here somehow to clean it all up. But you can see the damage just from countless miles on the frame. And then I'll show you my gas tank, and then we'll talk about the skids, who makes them, and everything of that nature. But there's the gas tank. There's this piece right here. Again, it's shaved off a ton of the metal, and also my little Zerk feedings for my arms. I'll talk about the suspension when it comes to the rear right now with the trailing arms. But you can see the frame has taken quite a bit of nicks. It's held up relatively well. I haven't had anything break. The only thing that I did have a problem with, this piece right here. So this part, it is known to break. I think I've seen like Fields Day, a couple of the other guys that drive Broncos pretty heavily have snapped this piece and this part right here. So Danny worked on this, Oscar worked on it. He gusseted this side, Danny gusseted this side to make sure we reinforced everything to make sure it doesn't break anymore. So when it comes to the actual structure of the body, structure of the frame here for the Bronco, it's held up well. It hasn't really given me problems. You know, even like the lower links here, some of it's low-hanging fruit. you know, that brace shouldn't be like that. So that end shouldn't be like that either. I did have a Acfab skid here, but it broke, and that was beforehand. You can see how beat up this one is too. It shaved off a ton of the metal, but we are going to be replacing those, getting fresh ones in there for the Rubicon to make sure that's okay. And then just constant damage. So you can see the damage everywhere just from constant wheeling. I do have the Acfab track bar. We did replace this to test it. I'm not sure if he ever went to market with this, but we do have his track bar, which did help with flex, and it did have Heims. So we are going to be getting rid of that. Also though, we are going to triangulate the rear from rock crawlers, so that's going to be the next step. But we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the video and show you that. But another thing that I've done that I tell almost anybody that has a Bronco is to get sumo stop. These sumos fit in the rear axle. They give you extra bump for the rear, and it just cleans up the ride. So I've had these basically since I've had the Bronco. Installed them 3 years ago at SEMA, and you can see they have held up. You can check them out, Super Springs. I think it's superspringsinternational.com. They sell the stops, they sell the braces. It's pretty simple. I've done it to the Bronco. I've put them on the Gladiator, and the ride quality is so much better. And obviously 2.5 rad flows in the back as well. The Johnny Joint Rockjock setup in the rear that I've had basically since they launched it. The only thing, obviously, just like any other truck, is these are they lock into themselves just like all the other trail arms. So you got to check them often to make sure that they're nice and tight. Drive shaft has held up, no problems there. T-case is there, and everything else has been good. So you can see everything's put in work. There's damage everywhere. Maybe a little spray can to clean some stuff up, and it'll do well. This is a Badlands. I do have the M220, and everything is cleaned up there. When it comes to the exhaust, I do have the AWE rock crawler exhaust, which is the cleanest, most tucked away exhaust that there is on the market. In my opinion, none of these V6s sound awesome, but this one does make it sound really good, and it just cleans it up. It keeps everything out of the way. It's a lot weight efficient too. It's a lot lightweight, and it just keeps it a lot cleaner. That's the rear end. That's what it looks like when it's up on the stands. Same thing in the rear, Falken RTs, obviously the Reikas. There's a Rockslider, just so you can see it from underneath and how it mounts. So it's a mounting bracket here, mounting there. There's actually 4 points to it, and you also use the pitch welds. I put all the weight of the truck on it and had no issues. You can see the one on this side. This is the new setup. I took a setup off of it. I have in my home. They're all tore up, but they hold well. None of them broke anywhere. They did have dents like in these areas right here, but other than that, I mean, it held up nice. Let's talk skid plates. The skid plate package is relatively new to me. It has a few scratches, still hasn't had any major dents or dings yet, which will change once we go to the Rubicon. This is a full aluminum belly. I do have a full install video on these and breaking them down a little bit more, but you can see it's just ice, man. It's nice and flat all the way across. Walking from the back, it does have a brace right there. It goes transfer case, transmission, oil pan, and then front skid plate. It lines up really, really nice with this bumper. And then if you have the modular, same thing, that has a little lip right there, so it'll go down, clean up. It is from Talons Offroad. You can check them up on my Instagram. You can check their website also. They also make them for Toyotas. They do have some Jeep parts, Ford parts. So even if you're driving like an F-150, go check out their website, see if they carry this stuff for you. And if you are willing, obviously a skid plate will save some lives, because if you dent an oil pan out on the trail, it's gonna be a headache, where this can protect you from one of those nightmares. So shout out to Talon for hooking us up with these skids. But there they are. The aluminum ice is definitely there, and I gotta love it, man. But can't wait to test these out a little bit more. So far, so good. The difference in weight just from removing the stock ones and putting the whole kit has been really, really nice. So I'm curious to see how they hold up with some real beatings, and see how the Talon skids go. We also did reinforce these two, the hooks right here. Underneath here, there's plates. So we plated it. See if you can see right about there. There's a big plate. So this is the stock plate. Let me see if I can get my hand in there. This is the stock plate, and then this is the big plate we put underneath. So, but other than that, the Bronco has held up well. I mean, I know they got a big ugly stigma when they first came out, because a lot of new drivers were getting it and ripping off tie rods left and right, breaking axles. That is normal IFS things though. These were just in the spotlight, that's why you guys were seeing it often. But Tacoma guys and 4Runner guys get that problem. Pretty much anybody that has IFS deals with those issues all the time. But the Bronco itself, the platform as well, this is again the Badlands. It does have the electronic disconnect for the sway bar. It does have lockers front and back, and it just works well. The GOAT modes all did well. They've the ones that I use the most when it comes to the GOAT modes is obviously the Rock mode, and then Baja. Everything else is kind of just whatever. I don't really use it. Mud and Ruts is used every once in a while, but for the most part, I keep it in eco, normal, rock mode, and then I use Baja whenever we're in the desert. But normal 4 low is really what I use the most, and then when it gets to the really difficult stuff, I'll put it in rock mode 4 low, and then it just works, man. I did bang up the intercooler a little bit. You can see I put a TM on it. It does have a little gash, but that's when it was in stock factory form. After that, we've reinforced that whole area right there. It does have a different color fender. You can see my cyber orange fender. I did blow up fenders a couple times, so if you do go bigger tire, make sure your suspension and lift is cycled, so that way you don't do what I did, because that happened at King of the Hammers once, and then it happened one other time when we went out to I think it was in Utah. We were at Swing Arm City, jumped it again, blew it up again. I know they have aftermarket fenders now for it, and you can swap them out if you want to, but for me, I like the stock form. I like the way it looks. If I do end up switching out, it would be the Fun Haver ones, because I really like the look of them. But we're gonna get this Bronco down, give you some final thoughts, some of my favorite things about it, some of the uglier things about it, and then we'll call it a day, man. Thank you guys for sticking around. All right, last but not least, the engine bay. So there's nothing fancy. Ford didn't even put like a plastic cover or anything. KC in one of our last episodes talked about how like messy this looks. His is a Raptor, didn't have anything fancy to make it kind of look cool. A lot of cars now come with like a cover that says, it'll say like ZL1 or Raptor or whatever. It would have been cool if this had like a nice Bronco cover on top of it, just so it can hide the disaster of this 2.7 and what it looks like. But other than that, yeah, I do have an intake. So this is the KNN Intake. It is the shorty, so it does come around, splits the pipe right there. So the split pipe is still stock, but it does come with this test pipe here, and it does come with the pipe that comes across down to the turbo. But it is plastic, and I've already noticed I've had an issue with it. It cracked here. I put some JB Weld and then put some Gorilla Tape on top of it to seal it. But that pipe, it's one of those things that we mentioned it before. When it comes to engine bay and heats, it would have been cooler if most of this stuff was aluminum. It would have just kept everything from cracking. So I am going to replace some of these lines, pipes and whatnot. I think some of the other companies make them. I think Engine has a couple of the hoses. I think Engine has a couple of the replacement pieces for like this plastic stuff. I think Roush, maybe some of the other companies. They do have an intercooler that's bigger for this too. A couple companies have that. They do have the Ford Performance chip to get more power out of it. I haven't done any of that just because I think I've never had one that I've really like truly loved. So right now it's just the intake. Everything else is 2.7. We have all the Ghost Box modules here, so I have all 3 right here, nice and wired, tucked away. This one does have the casing for the battery that Project X is making, so they'll be releasing that for the Bronco soon. But that's pretty much it, man, when it comes to the power plant. Everything else that it has. One thing that I didn't mention is the winch. So this is a Superwinch Tiger Shark 12 synthetic rope, so it is a 12K. We've used it a ton of times, pulled power wagons, smaller rigs. I do have the hook that's going to be put back on this. It just had an issue where I bent it a little bit, so I put a soft shackle. I really like the soft shackle look, but we're going to replace that. But other than that, the rest of the Bronco is there. Now let's talk about some of the good, the bad, and pretty much what it's been like to own it 30,000 miles. Having this, having the JT is very different, but there's pros and cons to everything. So when it comes to modifications, everything that's been done, you guys have seen it, from the rack to the suspension. Now I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the pros and cons of having not just the Bronco, but doing a 2-door, and then comparing it a little bit to the JT. I will be doing the JT breakdown after this video, so that way you guys can get that one. That one does have 50,000 miles, and it is supercharged, so it also has held up very well for me. But we'll definitely talk about that when we get there. I'm gonna go around, show you some of the damage. Obviously, fenders have been replaced. I did put it on its, not me, I actually put it on its side once. We were out at Santa Hollow, did a really spicy line. Truck tipped a little bit, and I did break this mirror off. You can see this plastic piece hasn't been replaced. I do have a dent right there. And as I spoke earlier in the video, Chocolate Thunder and Cougar Buttes did that. And then this was opposite side of Motino. It clipped this rock right here as we were going down it. But other than that, the rest of the body has been fine. I took my tire off as soon as I could, so I didn't bend my tailgate like a lot of them are. My top was one of the ones that did get recalled, so they did replace it when I first got it, because I was one of the first ones to get it. They replaced, I think it was just the inserts. I don't think the top was actually replaced. They just replaced all the gasketing and all that shenanigans. No damage on this side whatsoever. Fenders, I am on my 4th set. I have blown those up. Obviously, hood is still stock. Everything there is the same. The grill is all the same. This is the Badlands grill that came factory from it. I do have a couple chips from it, just from, trailing it, trees hitting it and whatnot. The paint itself pinstriped up, but it has held up. The clear coat is still there. You know, it has things and whatnot, smaller rashes from big trees and whatnot. But we are going to be wrapping this soon, so it'll have a different color. It's pretty sick. So far, the Bronco has been great. When it comes to performance, the Bronco has been amazing. Obviously, it's a little bit different than driving a Jeep. I don't think it gives you as much like leeway when it comes to making mistakes, where a Bronco will break a tie rod, will snap an axle, especially if you're on a bigger tire like a 37, something heavy, something in the MT line, or even bigger than that. We have seen Broncos with even bigger tires. Our boy Mark drives his on 40s. He's had plenty of problems making that run and making sure that it does well, but when it's working, it does really, really good. IFS just takes a lot more input. It takes a different way of driving it, but it also comes with a lot of pros. You know, it's really nice on the road. It's good in the desert. I still think that the Bronco is better as a full off-road rig when it comes to balance, when it comes to performance, what it's capable of doing, and how good it acts everywhere else. Where the Jeep is just superior when it comes to rock crawling, some of the tougher stuff, just because of the straight axle, the way that it's been built, and the 3.6 just doesn't fail. It's not a huge power plant, it just does well. Alrighty team, so now that we wrapped up the Bronco, showed you everything that's on it, skid plate, suspension, all the ice, rims, tires, package, everything. Now I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my 30,000 miles experience and how I feel about the Bronco versus owning, like, let's just say the first 30,000 on the JT. Driving a Bronco is different. So if you are looking for a vehicle you can just buy off the lot, rock crawl right away, and do that as a majority of your adventures, I would say buy a Rubicon, a Jeep, a JL, JT. Now, if you want balance, if you want to be able to go to the desert, also driving on the road, just feel a lot more comfortable when feel more comfortable on the characteristics of it, the Bronco is definitely the way to go. Being front locked, rear locked, also have sway bar disconnect, the Bronco format has done really well. The prices on these have gone up. When I got mine, I think I paid $41, $42 for it, and it was a Badlands, which is a pretty decent price compared to how they are now. It's held up well. As you guys have seen, plenty of damage, plenty of trails. If you guys have watched any of the videos, I put this thing to work and it continues to do well. If you have a two-door, I would say keep it on 35s unless you really want the bigger tire. It looks awesome on 37s. I just think the 2.7 is a lot peppier when it is on the 35s. But, you know, you can go 35s, you get really aggressive and it looks fine. Owning the truck for 30,000 miles, it is a Ford. It is one of those things that everybody talks mess when it comes to the Jeeps, Fords, and how bad they are when when it comes to warranties and all that shenanigans. I did have issues with the dealership, fixing things when they broke the tube and whatnot. They didn't want to do it, so I had to do it myself. But I think that's pretty common. I've had Jeep stories that are pretty much the same line, and people that drive Toyotas that have had the same issues. So when it comes to that problem, I don't think any dealership really is going to help you out if you are wheeling as hard as we are. When it comes to reliability and how good it's been, electronics have kind of given me hiccups here and there where the radio shuts off and it won't turn on for 10 minutes or whatever, and then automatically turns on, and then I've had no issues there. Other than that, the motor's been healthy. I do oil changes every 3,000 miles. I do drive it hard, so that's why I switch it out a lot more frequent than like what the actual service requests. So they request, I think it's every 5 or 7 or something like that. But I do it every 3 to make sure that it's tip top. I am going to be doing diff, transmission, and all that here shortly because it is at 30K. I think the interval is at 50, but I'll probably do it before. Again, it all depends on your driving style. Cabin filters, intake, I always clean out my boxes, make sure that they're clean, make sure that that's healthy. So that goes to the testament of any vehicle. I think if you do take care of them as you should, they will take care of you. So the platform itself, the Bronco's been great. I haven't had any issues when it comes to reliability. Performance is all there. That's not a big problem. Space is an issue. Obviously, now with the roof rack that I have and things that I'm trying to subsidize some of the stuff that I carry and put it somewhere else. When it comes to the 2-door, I think if you really wanted more practicality, get a 4-door. My opinion is that a 2-door looks better. It's more true to the old school Bronco. It just overall has a better look to it, especially when you take the top off. It's hard to beat how good this truck looks without a top, and it's just dope. So performance parts, when it comes to aftermarket support, it's starting to grow even more now. There's a lot of companies making stuff. The 74 weld stuff is really awesome. Portals are sick on these rigs, especially like if you did a stock one on portals. That's pretty much all you need, and the truck is super capable. When it comes to the interior you saw a couple of the dings and whatnot. It could have been better. It's the interior you deserve for where it's priced. It is not like the fully loaded Raptor. It is a Badlands. You're still in there. I think the price range is okay. I think the seats were a little bit cheap, but a small fix there, and that should be all right. Tires and wheels, I think the stock ones suck. Definitely switch those out right away. I got rid of them as soon as I had them. Those do puncture on the sidewalls. really easy. I think it's the Goodyears or whatever they are. We got rid of them basically as soon as I got rid of the truck. Sasquatch fenders are my favorite ones compared to the stock ones. These are -15s. We are going to be switching these rims out and probably keeping the same offset, but the Bronco again performs well. Would I choose this over a Rubicon? I would say yes. It takes a lot more input to drive it. I think even a 4-door Bronco Sasquatch on 37s is going to be way more comfortable, a little bit more efficient than the 3.6 would be in a Jeep. Just suit me better for everything that I like to do. So, you know, driving fast, going on the road, traveling that far, and then obviously doing the rock crawling and whatnot. You know, carrying a tie rod is not a big deal. Shit's gonna break no matter what you drive, depending on how you drive it. So even if you have a Rubicon, it's gonna break if you don't drive it correctly. That's why all these Jeeps are here. You know, we're upgrading them and making them better, but as you test them more, shit will break. So especially when you put countless miles on these vehicles, that's what happens. When it comes to the styling, obviously it's all preference, but nothing looks better than a 2-door Bronco. I don't care what you guys say. 4Runners, all of that shit. Nothing looks as good as a 2-door Bronco does, because it's so true to you know, its heritage. They did a good job when it came to that. But that's pretty much it, man. The Bronco breakdown is complete. If you guys have any questions about any of these parts, I'll put a lot of them in the description. A lot of the companies that I work with, there is some changes coming to the Bronco. Gearing has been fine for me, especially with the 35s. Rubicon will be a test. It'll be nice to see how it does out there. I have taken this on some of the tougher trails already, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Tie rods, I'll carry an extra one. Axle, I'll carry an extra one. I'm not worried about it there. But that's what it is, man. If you guys have any questions about my breakdown, any questions about, you know, the Bronco itself, the hows, the whens, the whys, let me know. The Bronco's done well. Any other parts, again, these are people that I work with, not just for this vehicle, but I have a lot of the parts on the JT as well because I believe in them. And she's done awesome. So 30,000 miles. Again, shout out to Gus for letting us use his shop here at All Terrain. They are in Rialto. If you need any service when it comes to alignments, Jeep parts, trusses, rig gear, hit him up. He's a good dude. He takes care of it. He makes sure your shit gets done correctly. And if not, you call me and then I'll call him and we'll have a real conversation. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate everybody that's sticking around. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is a quick breakdown myself. It isn't something super icy or anything like that. I wanted to keep it real, kind of show you the nitty-gritty, really what it's been for me. And again, if you have any questions, any concerns, let me know. I'll answer them. I don't shy away from any of it. I'm not a Jeep guy. I'm not a Ford Bronco guy. I'm a performance guy. If it works, I use it. Honestly, if Honda had a sick crawler, that's what I would drive. I would buy the Honda, but that's not the world that we live in. Shout out to Ford for making a good machine, and you know, the JT will be next, and I'll show you what that looks like and all the stuff that I've done to that, because that's been in this, that has 20,000 miles more. And I did supercharge it, which means it went from naturally aspirated to now being, you know, supercharged. It is going to be dope to break that down. I know there's a lot of people waiting for that video also. But I appreciate you guys sticking around. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, all that good stuff. Check out the Gatekeepers podcast if you haven't already. We have good people on there all the time. We do some solid interviews. We talk about off-roading. We talk about not off-roading. Sometimes we talk about all the crazy shit that's going on in the world, and witches, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot, all that good stuff. And it's just a good time, man. It is on podcast, it is on Spotify, and it is also on Apple Podcasts, so check that out. And then obviously if you want to support us some more, go on Patreon and support us there. But the next big run will be Rubicon. We do have another video breakdown for the Gladiator, and I'll probably have the release of Catch Me Outside, which is a program we're doing to get everybody to go outside and test new trails out. So more information on that will be coming soon. But appreciate you guys sticking around, man. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown. If you're not a Bronco guy, share it with the Bronco guy. Tell them to watch this video so they can see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything above. But appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.